Have you ever sat in silence, wondering why your phone isn't buzzing with your children's voices anymore? It's a thought that might send a chill down your spine, a quiet fear that perhaps something in your relationship has changed for the worse. I'm Dr. James, and after over 60 years in this world and a lifetime of observing human connections, I'm here to tell you there are deep reasons behind this silence, and understanding them may be the first step in healing the gap. Imagine waking up one day, expecting your phone to ring with the familiar sound of your child's laughter, only to be met with nothing. At first, you might think, it's just life getting busy. But when those missed calls and silent texts stretch into months and even years, it forces you to ask a painful question. What have I done wrong? Now, before you spiral into self-blame, let's pause and explore the complex tapestry of changing relationships. I've seen it all over the decades. Kids growing up, leaving home, and slowly drifting away. But it's not always about neglect or indifference. Sometimes it's about the delicate balance between letting go and holding on too tightly. When kids stop reaching out, it might not be a sign that their love is fading. It could be the bittersweet shift in roles and identities that everyone goes through eventually. Let's start with a simple truth. Children, once so utterly dependent on us, gradually carve out their own path. It's not that they love you any less. It's that their relationship with you must change as they learn to stand on their own. I know, that might sound like a platitude, but there's profound truth in it. In our youth, we were each other's world. But as time passes, the world expands. And so do the boundaries between us. I've dedicated my life to understanding these subtle shifts. And let me tell you, it's not a failure on your part. It's a sign that your children are becoming who they're meant to be. But even as they grow and flourish, there remains a deep need for connection, for guidance, for the comfort of familiar voices, in quiet moments of worry or joy. So why do those calls, which once came as naturally as a morning greeting, start to dwindle? Many factors are at play. First, there's the evolution of roles and boundaries. When you were their superhero, they looked to you for answers, for guidance, even for validation. But as they become adults, they naturally begin to push for independence, sometimes overcompensating by creating distance. This isn't about rejecting you personally. It's about them establishing their own space in a world that can feel overwhelming. Boundaries, although healthy, can sometimes be misinterpreted as silence or detachment. Now, consider the modern pressures of life. Our world spins faster than ever, with careers, screens, and constant notifications. Even the most loving child can get caught in the whirlwind. In today's society, time is the most scarce resource, and while we all dream of staying connected with the ones we love, the reality is, practicality often wins. We prioritize tasks over heartfelt conversations. The calls, the texts, they become casualties of a relentless schedule, leaving you to wonder, have I become just another item on their to-do list? I remember sitting in my office one afternoon, the quiet hum of the city outside, when a patient, an 80-year-old woman named Evelyn, tearfully confided that her children barely reached out anymore. At first, she felt abandoned, as if the silence in her phone was a reflection of her worth. But with time and gentle conversation, we uncovered something deeper. Her children weren't avoiding her out of malice. They were overwhelmed by work, by parenting, by life. They were simply stretched thin, And sometimes, it's not about busyness at all. It's about how communication itself has changed. There was a time when phone calls were everything. A missed call meant something. But now, things are different. Digital communication has taken over. Many adult children prefer quick messages, emojis, or reactions to a post, instead of long, heartfelt calls. They may feel like they're staying connected, but to you, it might not feel that way. Your child could be sharing parts of their life on platforms you don't use, in formats that feel less personal. And that shift can hurt. It's a technological gap that becomes an emotional one. The absence of a call doesn't always mean a lack of love, but it can feel that way. Yet sometimes, silence points to something deeper, more personal. Over the years, I've learned that every relationship, carries both beauty and scars. And sometimes, silence is a cry for space. Your adult child may be dealing with emotions they haven't fully processed. Old wounds, buried memories, unresolved feelings. To them, a phone call might feel like stepping into a minefield, full of expectations or past disappointments. This isn't an indictment of your love or your care. It's a reflection of their own inner struggles. I recall a patient, Michael, whose father felt the ache of silence. But Michael wasn't ignoring him. He was navigating identity, career stress, and pressure. When they finally came together in family counseling, it became clear. Both were hurting. Unmet needs, unspoken expectations, emotional armor built up over years. Their silence was a shield, not a weapon. But once they began to speak with honesty, with empathy, the healing began. The calls returned, not all at once, but slowly, intentionally. Each one became a step toward reconnection, a reminder that love can endure, even through long silences. So, as we reflect on these shifting dynamics, understand this: the reasons behind your adult children's silence are rarely simple. They might be carving out space, overwhelmed by life, adjusting to new ways of communicating, or confronting old emotional wounds. Whatever the reason, the answer isn't to demand more or to blame yourself. Instead, try adjusting your perspective. Start a new dialogue, one that's rooted in understanding. If you miss their voice, reach out gently. Send a thoughtful message. Record a short video. Let them know, I'm here when you're ready. It's not about guilt. It's about invitation. It's about love, expressed with patience. Also, take care of yourself. When silence lingers, it's easy to let your self-worth take a hit. But your value isn't defined by a missed call. You carry wisdom, love, and a lifetime of experience. Nurture your own passions. Connect with others who see you, who hear you. Create a life rich with meaning, outside of one relationship. Now, let's take a breath. Think back to the last time you reached out. Was it with expectation or with love? Sometimes we grip the past so tightly, we forget to let the present breathe. If that resonates with you, maybe leave a comment below. Share one small way you plan to reconnect, with patience and without pressure. When you shift your energy from needing to be called to simply being open, your child may feel it. Because connection isn't a chore. It's a choice made easier when both sides feel respected. And if you're still wondering, what can I do differently? Here's a thought. Sometimes the hardest step is accepting the natural flow of life. Just as the seasons change, So do the ways we express love. I've spent years learning this. The silence of our loved ones often says more than words. It tells us when to wait, when to step back, and most importantly, when to focus on what we can control. In that quiet, there's a chance to rediscover yourself. Maybe it's an old passion you set aside, a friend you haven't spoken to in years, a new hobby waiting for your attention. And with that shift in focus, something beautiful can happen. Your relationship with your child may evolve, not into constant phone calls, but into fewer, more meaningful ones. Deeper, more intentional, more real. Because in the end, it's not about how often we speak, but how deeply we listen. Sometimes, listening to your own inner voice is the first step toward healing. I once worked with a man who felt utterly abandoned by his children. His heart was heavy with regret and self-doubt. Through our sessions, he came to realize their distance wasn't rejection, it was growth. They were building their own lives in a world full of noise. Once he accepted that, he began to cherish even the smallest moments of contact. And he built new connections. Outside his role as dad, he remembered who he was, not just as a parent, but as a person. And he built new connections. Outside his role as dad, he remembered who he was, not just as a parent, but as a person. And he built new connections. Outside his role as dad, he remembered who he was, not just as a parent, but as a person. The relationship with your children is a tapestry woven from shared memories, moments of pain, and quiet love. It's not static. It shifts, grows, sometimes retreats, before it blooms again. When the silence comes, use it to nurture yourself. Rediscover your identity beyond the role of parent. As we reach the end of this conversation, I want you to remember this: your worth is infinite. It is not measured by the number of calls or texts you receive. It lives in the love you've shared, the wisdom you've given, and the kindness that still flows from your heart. So, tonight, take a quiet moment. Reflect on what you might do differently tomorrow. Reach out gently, forgive the silence, and leave space for healing to find its way back in. Before you go, if this message spoke to your heart, consider leaving a comment below. What's one small change you'll try this week? And if you know someone who needs to hear this, please share it. Because sometimes, one voice can spark a connection that changes everything.